Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. With demonetization at the top of everyone's mind, the show tonight is devoted to three critical issues connected with this development. After the opposition's sharp attack and the Prime Minister's passionate defense, are we witnessing the demonization of demonetization? And second, has the pain and suffering of the last few days established that proper planning was not done and thus implementation of demonetization is its Achilles heel? And now with the process irreversible, what steps are needed? My guests are BJP MP and Pioneer Editor Chandan Mitra, JDU spokesperson and author Pavan Verma, Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson Raghav Chadha, Congress spokesperson Ajoy Kumar, and Trinamool Congress spokesperson and Bengal MLA Mahua Moitra. Mahua Moitra, why is Mamata Banerjee trying to organize a combined opposition protest against demonetization when many people, possibly in fact a majority of the country, believe this is a credible and serious step to check black money, which has been a curse, let's admit it, for almost 7 decades?
I strongly disagree. I think you only need to walk on the streets to see that the majority of this country does not believe that this is a credible step at all in any direction. And number one, I think that is a myth being perpetuated by the BJP. And quite like sort of Saddam Hussein has WMD, hence we must go to war. And if you're not with us, you're unpatriotic. It's exactly the same game they're playing. So we strongly disagree. This is not a credible step in any direction. Number two, Mamata Di has, because we are a party that is a Trinamool party, a party of the grassroots, and the main people who have been hurt by this ill thought out step, and if I may say so, completely illogical policy. We have a problem with both the policy and its implementation, is the poor and the poor farmers, and 70% of Bengal is agriculture and poor farmers. So if we don't hit the ground for them, I don't know who will. So that's exactly why she's done it.
Raghav Chadha, Arvind Kejriwal, your chief minister, has gone on record to say, not once but repeatedly, that the BJP had forewarned its friends. Arun Jaitley has strenuously denied that. He says Mr. Kejriwal is taking liberties with the truth. Why are you not willing to believe Mr. Jaitley, particularly when you don't have proof of your claim?
Well, Mr. Thapar, initially a number of people had reasonable apprehensions that the Bharatiya Janata Party and the leadership of the BJP has tipped off their leadership, their party units, as well as few crony capitalists. But slowly, as we move into the implementation of demonetization, evidence is surfacing which only ratifies the claims that we have made. Now you have a leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party's Punjab unit, a co-convener of the legal cell of the Punjab unit, that posted pictures of 2,000 rupee notes 2 days before the Prime Minister's announcement. That is on the 6th of November. He posted these pictures on social media. Number two, you have bank accounts of the BJP in the state of West Bengal that have seen abnormally high banking transactions 6 hours, 7 hours before the Prime Minister's announcement at 8 p.m. on the 8th of November, which raises a suspicion. And also, you have seen there are media reports which point out that how there is a sudden and a synchronous rise in bank deposits of public sector banks, resulting in a huge amount of deposits vis-a-vis the previous quarters. So all these facts combined raise suspicion that perhaps the Bharatiya Janata Party had in fact tipped off a number of their party leaders, their party units, and a handful of crony capitalists.
Can I just respond to that very quickly? Because what Mr. Jaitley said about those points at his press conference on Saturday was, first of all, the monies deposited by the BJP in those accounts were legitimate and legal monies. Taxes had been paid on them. And secondly, and more importantly, he said that the sharp spike in bank deposits in September was because, in fact, the 7th Pay Commission proceeds had been credited on the 31st of August.
I will rebut this with a straight bat. Number one, first of all, political parties in India don't have to pay tax. So to say that this was legally taxed money is a wrong statement by the finance minister. Number two, Bengal unit of the Bharatiya Janata Party, which has, a negligible support base as well as a very minuscule organizational setup, has seen abnormally high transaction running into a few crores few hours
Okay.
before the Prime Minister's announcements, and
1
this
crore,
is
just
reasonable
1
evidence
crore.
to doubt the intent of the BJP and whether it
Okay.
did perhaps. And secondly, when Mr. Jaitley says that the deposits, just very
Yeah, go
quickly,
ahead.
I'll take 15 seconds. When Mr. Jaitley says that the abnormally high banking deposits were due to areas of 7th pay commission, he is again wrong, because even if you look at just 4 bank accounts, 4 banks, even if you were to look at SBI, Bank of Baroda, Union Bank and PNB, you see that a whopping sum of 1,68,000 crores was deposited in these banks. And the areas of the 7th pay commission are only 34,000 odd crores. So therefore, our concerns are reasonable and legitimate, and we are voicing these concerns, and we want the government to
You made your point, Raghav Chadha. Let me bring in Chandan Mitra.
Decision.
Let me bring in Chandan Mitra. The 2 points being made, Chandan Mitra, are: one, abnormally large sums of money were deposited into BJP accounts literally hours before the demonetization was announced, and secondly, the quantum of money deposited into banks in September is, if I heard Raghav Chadha correctly, roughly 4 to 5 times the 7th pay commission arrears.
And that's just 4 banks.
Well, I think on the second point, it will need to be clarified. It will need to get it clarified by the Finance Ministry. But there is no reason to disbelieve Mr. Jaitley. The 7th Finance Commission's payouts began in September, and when the money came into people's hands, they deposited this money in their bank accounts. It's as simple as that. Now, as far as the Bengal unit is concerned, a sum of rupees 1 crore, a mere 1 crore, was deposited in the bank in the routine course. Now, how does that suggest that somebody in the Bengal unit, of all units, knew that this is going to happen? So 1 crore rupees collected in the normal course, which unlike what Mr. Raghav says, Bengal unit is a fairly buoyant unit who has been picking up support and picking up donations from the public. So 1 crore rupees is routinely deposited. Now, to read from that the BJP had alerted all its people. If that was so, every state unit would have done this.
Can
why
I,
only
Chandan
the
Mitra,
Bengal
put this
unit,
to you?
and why only 1 crore? There's just, a whole load of bazaar gossip.
Can I put this to you? I'm not talking about the 2 allegations raised by Raghav Chadha. I'm talking about the fact that Jainik Jagran towards the end of October, a Gujarat paper, a paper in Bengal, and I believe 2 other papers, all 5, although unfortunately not on their front pages but on their inside pages, had stories to say 2 critical things. One, that a new 2,000 rupee note was about to be made public, and 2, that the 1,500 rupee notes would be withdrawn. Now, both 5 papers carried both those things. Is it just a coincidental leak in 5 papers, or were they being tipped off?
Well, I'm sure, Karan, you saw none of those reports yourself.
I saw the Jainik
I did
Jagran.
not.
I saw the
Because I'm
Jainik
sure, had you
Jagran.
seen them, you would have had this debate. You would have had this debate much earlier, before demonetization.
In other
You
words,
would
what
have
you're
had a debate
saying
as to whether
is the news
demonetization
leaked,
was
but no
on
one
the way.
understood
You
and
did not,
appreciated
do
what the
anything.
leak amounted to. That's what you're saying. That the leak therefore is inconsequential because no one realized how big it was.
This is typical speculation which happens from time to time. The talk of demonetization has been there in Rajiv Gandhi's time, in the times thereafter also, and has not materialized.
Okay.
So this time, if somebody tried what I would say a tukka, and one tukka clicked, I don't think that shows any leakage on the part from the system.
I'm not sure whether that's a convincing explanation or just a convenient one, but I'll live with it. Let the audience decide for themselves. Ajay Kumar, aren't you worried
You
that
tell me,
after
why should this story go in an inside page? Why should this story go in an inside page?
Because sometimes, let's be honest, Chandan, journalists are not as intelligent as they pretend to be. They don't realize the significance of what they've got. Journalists can be wrong sometimes, but that doesn't mean that the leak didn't happen, and that doesn't mean that the leak didn't reach the people for whom it was intended, who could be big businessmen, who understood the significance and importance. Journalists may not have. But let's not quarrel. Ajay Kumar, aren't you worried that after 2G and Colgate, CWG and all the other instances of corruption under UPA, and they were a long list, Congress's position on demonetization looks to many people as if actually you either support corruption or you're really worried about the fact that your own party's money, very possibly black money, is now going to get extinguished. And that your real motives are not motives of principle, but rather these that I've just put to you.
You know, Karan, there cannot be anything more funny and ridiculous. The first issue is, if you're standing with the 90% of the people in this country, and then if you're raising those issues, the fundamental issue is all those people who have their black money. If you look at it, the unprecedented increase in deposits in the last quarter in all public sector banks, the increase in the gold prices, in the increase in the dollar rates. Those are two issues. The other issue which I want to, Karan, highlight is very interesting. Modi ji says that he is fighting it for three reasons: counterfeiting, and the government report says there are around 400 to 1,000 crores of counterfeiting coins, rupees in circulation. This whole exercise has brought the economy to standstill, so 2 lakh crores gone. So who is clapping the Pakistanis?
No, where do you get this? Where do you get this grand figure of 2 lakh crores gone?
This is the,
where do you get that figure from? Do you realize that is almost 1.3% of GDP?
My question to you, Karan, is just see what's happening. The whole cash economy
but where do you get the figure of 2 lakh crores? Don't bandy figures around carelessly. I'm asking you a question. If you had a specific figure, 2 lakhs crore gone, where does it come from?
So can I complete? So when I complete it, so what has happened is the daily rotation of cash in this country approximately comes to, if you calculate the amount of money which is daily rotated, if the 15 lakh crores, even if you take a 20% circulation, it comes to approximately 2 to 3 lakh crores, because 20% is in circulation. So the question again is, you have brought a standstill to it. The second issue is on black money. Even the income tax rate has shown only 5% is cash and gold.
Forgive me, Dr. Kumar. Forgive me, Dr. Kumar. Circulation of money coming to a standstill or slowing down doesn't mean the economy and GDP has lost 2 lakh crore. You're jumping from one wildly to the other, and you can't mislead the audience because you will create a sense of panic. And it's not fair that you should, particularly when you can't back it up. You can't come up with figures from the top of your head. I want to come to Pavan Verma. I want to come to Pavan Verma, but let me quickly bring in Mohua Moitra.
No, but listen.
I'll come to you in a moment's time. Just a moment, I'll come to you back. Mohua Mitra, I'll come back to you, Dr. Kumar. Just hold your horses. Mohua Mitra, even your chief minister has come up with an equally bizarre figure today. Not 2 lakhs crore. She says 1.5 lakh crore has been lost. And she makes it clear, lost. Where does that figure come from? Because 1.5 lakh crore is 1% of GDP, and I've spoken to 4 different economists and not one is prepared to believe that figure. So tell me, where does she come to that figure from? Or is it just politics, and is she just plucking figures out to damn the scheme?
She says, while common people have been victimized and crushed under the weight of demonetization, many economists now predicting an onset of recession. This will be a killer. Already a staggering 1.5 lakh crores of GDP has been lost to the economy in only 6 days.
Where do you get that figure already? Already means it's happened. Where does that figure of a loss of 1.5 lakh crore already come from?
Well, I think if you see the amount of money in circulation, which is 17 lakh crores, 90% of money in circulation is actually of transaction. The value of transactions in this country is in 68% of the value is in cash, 90% by volume is in cash. And if you come to Bengal, for example, and you see
now suddenly coming up with don't in any way justify a loss of 1.5 lakh crore. Reeling out statistics meaninglessly doesn't prove your 1.5 lakh crore loss.
I think it is extremely possible. I think
nothing is extremely possible. It's all that's being done is to assert the fact without basis. Surely you're being unfair to the good public of India. You're throwing a meaningless figure without proof.
No,
you're creating a sense of panic, and you cannot justify it.
I don't think the sense of panic has been created by any tweet or by any notice that our party has created. I think the sense of panic has. Please let me finish. Please let me finish, Mr. Thapar.
If you can justify the figure, I will. But if you can't, you're simply taking our time. I'll stop you.
I think the sense of panic was. I think the sense of panic was created on the 8th of November by an illogical policy that was completely ill-implemented.
Pavan Verma, I know you're not a supporter of the government.
This has been put out.
I know that your party has different views to the government on a whole range of issues. But the significant and important thing
Sorry?
is that on demonetization, your chief minister has publicly said that he believes this will benefit the economy, even if it causes some inconvenience in the short term. Now, you've just heard political opponents, some of whom are your allies at times, claiming wildly that losses to GDP of either 1.5 lakh crore or 2 lakh crore have happened, and they cannot justify it and no one believes it. You have others claiming that in fact the BJP has benefited, that money's gone into their accounts. Yet again you have people politicizing the whole matter. How do you, as someone who supports demonetization, respond to the way other opponents and politicians are attacking it?
Karan, let me clarify to you. On the day this policy was announced, Mr. Nitish Kumar welcomed it in the context of moves that help to reduce the parallel economy or fight against the black economy or help to fight against the linkage between black money and terrorism and the menace of counterfeit money. He said we support all such steps in this context. He also added at that time, on the day the scheme was announced, that there could be some transitional inconvenience, but in the long run, such schemes which fight black money will be good for the economy. We still maintain that position, but with two caveats which I want to put down bluntly before you. We believe that the final judgment on whether this policy has been efficacious must be put in abeyance until impact.
We've lost.
Secondly, we also believe that the government has been a bit unprepared. The government has been unprepared for its implementation, and that in the transitional period, the level of inconvenience, the pervasiveness of inconvenience, the prolonged period of inconvenience was something the government should have been planned better with, because it does appear at this moment that honest citizens or citizens with cash, poorer people, are standing in lines, whereas those who are the actual defaulters are busy trying to find means to defeat the scheme. So our critique of the government is that the implementation could have been better, but in principle we support moves that are meant to fight the menace of the black money economy.
So very quickly, because I want you to clarify, you're no longer therefore a staunch supporter. You now have qualified your position to say an attack against black money is one that you support, but the implementation of this particular scheme is one where you not only have criticisms, but you suspect that the implementation is so poor that it might end up creating more pain than gain. Have I correctly summarized what looks like the changed position of your party, Pavan Verma?
Just a minor qualification to what you said. We need to reserve judgment after the transitional period, which we hope will be shorter, whether the scheme is succeeding. But we have also maintained, Karan, I must say to you, and I have said it on many channels, that there is a need to go to the root cause of corruption. But we support this move, nevertheless, as one of the measures to fight black money.
Let's come then, ladies and gentlemen, to this second issue we want to discuss today, whether the implementation, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Kumar, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you, Dr. Kumar. I want to now take the subject up whether the implementation is the Achilles heel, whether adequate advanced planning for the implementation simply wasn't done. Now, Dr. Kumar, the Economic Times reports as far back as April, that is to say 6 months ago, that the State Bank of India had done a report on demonetization, and this is what the report says. It, meaning demonetization, needs to be done in steps and be balanced with creation of necessary electronic and digital infrastructure in the country for ensuring that the man on the street is not put to undue hardship. The same report says that at the logistics level, there could be complete chaos at the branch level if logistics are not properly handled. With that advice available through the SBI to the government as far back as April, don't you think the government is to blame for not having adequately taken it on board and adequately made preparations?
Karan, before that, I want to answer the question. The data, there's the chief statistician, Mr. Pranab Sen said that 86% of the money is being sucked out. One sec, yeah, former, and only 14% is in circulation.
That doesn't lead
so look
to
at
the
the
conclusion
impact.
that you have a 2 lakh loss to GDP.
So what I'm saying,
that's all I'm pointing out. You can't cite these statistics to come to that conclusion.
Karan, but I'm Karan, can I complete? May I complete, sir? What I'm trying to say is the 86% of the cash economy is now running on 14%. Whether it's a loss or not, you calculate the loss, it will be humongous. But coming to the second part, your question on implementation. First question is not demonetization because you're introducing 2,000 rupees. What is the logic about fight against black money if you're going to reintroduce 2,000 rupees? Second issue is the unpreparedness, the lack of the people, like Mahua correctly said, most of the people, lower middle class and the poor people are standing in line. So you're losing daily wage labor, you're losing daily earnings, and the issue is people who have cash. The poor people, which the armchair economists don't understand, don't put it in bank, not because they don't want to put it. They need cash to roll their money. The vegetable seller, the milkman, the taxi guy, every guy needs the cash to roll it. Look at the preparation of the government.
I take your point on preparation, that the government's preparation is close to not just faulty but appalling. Chandan Mitra, you're back with us. We lost you earlier. There are several things that your government could have done to ease the pain that people are suffering today. To begin with, you could have increased the number of 100 rupee notes available with banks and ATMs, but you didn't. You could have ensured that the new 2,000 rupee note was the same size and same weight as the 1,000 you were withdrawing, so that replacing it at ATMs would have either not needed recalibration or the recalibration could have happened a lot faster. But that wasn't done. The two notes are hugely different in size. Then you could have ensured that the new 500 rupee note was ready and immediately available rather than wait 5 days to bring it into circulation. And finally, you could have ensured that all the banks who had 36 hours lead notice had arranged for 3 clear lines. One for exchange, one for withdrawal, another for depositing. Today, the economic secretary has given instructions to have 3 lines at each bank. Why wasn't that done from day one? Simple planning that could have eased the situation was either forgotten or negligently not even thought of.
Well, Karan, everybody can get wiser after the event. I don't think that, all this was not thought about. The government had been planning this, we know, but there has to be a very, very deep secrecy in all these moves. How many people do you take into account? And the more people you discuss these arrangements with, the greater are the chances that people will add 2 plus 2 and come to a conclusion, and news will leak. The moment news leaks, the whole purpose of striking at black money would have been lost. And the exercise would have only led to pain and no gain.
Let me ask Raghav Chadha, who in addition to being the Aam Aadmi spokesperson is also, I believe, a chartered accountant. Mr. Chadha, do you accept the argument you've just heard from Chandan Mitra? Firstly, that everyone can be wiser after the event, right? And therefore, this somehow excuses or at least explains the fact that the government didn't do adequate advanced planning. And secondly, he says, the need for deep secrecy means you can't plan too well, because if you plan, secrets will let out. I mean, to me, that's not convincing, but is it convincing to you?
Well, Mr. Thapar, this argument of secrecy is not a valid one to justify this absolutely ill-conceived, poorly targeted and poorly managed and wrongly managed rather demonetization scheme. Now the Bharatiya Janata Party in the month of January 2014 issued a press release. A press conference was conducted by one of their leading spokespersons at that point in time, saying that demonetization should never be done when the UPA was in government. There are CBDT reports saying demonetization at this point in time will not help in tackling the menace of black money. The reality is that 30-40 years ago, black money was in fact stashed in the form of liquid cash in houses and almirahs of people. Now the black money, by his own admission when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, is stashed abroad, number one.
Oh, we've lost Raghav Chandra at that point. Very quickly, let me bring in Mahua Moitra, because the critical question now is to do with whether advanced planning by the government that was done was sufficient and adequate, or whether, as I suggested to Chandan Mitra, that it was done negligently and perhaps without careful thinking. And his answer to me was twofold. One, everyone is wiser after the event. And secondly, the need for deep secrecy precluded good, thorough advanced planning. Do you accept those explanations?
I mean, I think anyone watching this program will agree with me that it's laughable. It's laughable that someone this is the government in power in India, the largest democracy in the world. You are responsible for the plight of 1.3 billion people. And you say that anyone can be wiser after the fact. That you and I can be wiser after the fact. Someone on the street can be. But the cabinet, the union cabinet and the prime minister certainly cannot be in a position where they can be like, oh, we could have done this better. That's unacceptable, completely unacceptable, right? Number one. Number two, you say that this could have been planned better. Yes, of course it could have been planned better. But like I said, the main problem with this entire argument, I have an issue even with the topic of the debate, which is we're almost taking for granted that this is this great good being done for the country. And there's a problem with, it's the end is fine, it's the means which is the problem. We have a problem with both the end and the means, because if you're trying to tackle black money, 6% of black money is only stored in liquid currency. The rest of it is abroad, is in hard assets, in jewelry. So you've done nothing to do anything like that.
The surveys suggest it's 15.
And number one, no, it's 6% is what the IT department has come back with. And let me quote Meenakshi Lekhi, who was the official spokesperson of the BJP in January 2014.
And she's just been quoted. She's just been quoted by Raghav Chandra. Raghav Chandra just quoted
she said something in there. There's one, Raghav mentioned it, but let me give you the exact quote. It says that this has been done to obfuscate the issue of black money that is being stashed outside the country. We heard this government make such a hue and cry at the time of the campaign in 2014, say that we're going to bring back money. What have you done with POCA? What have you done with PMLA? What have you done with the Income Tax Act?
Okay,
You've done nothing. The instruments in your hand already.
Let me bring in Pavan Verma. Pavan Verma,
Karan.
The issue we're talking about now, Pavan, is not whether the idea was good or not. We're talking about whether a good idea is being so badly implemented that it's become a pain. Do you accept the argument, and this is almost a concession by Chandan, I should add, that everyone is wiser after the event, because you only say that when you know you've made mistakes and that you could have corrected them. Do you accept that argument, that we are wiser after the event? And secondly, that deep secrecy precluded proper planning?
No, actually, Karan, I think the real argument which the BJP should listen to is that government's taking such a mammoth step, which is going to have such a wide impact, need to be wiser before the event. There is no point in saying casually that everyone can be wiser after the event, because of inconvenience, the sheer shoddiness of planning is very visible. It's on the streets, and unfortunately, who is being affected? The housewife, the farmer, the poor, the laborer, the small entrepreneur, the shopkeeper, people who keep cash but not necessarily black. And
we're discussing demonetization. Has the Prime Minister taken a gamble that could reverberate and boomerang on him, or has he astutely taken a step which, despite the pain, will actually win him blessings, rewards and success? Ajay Kumar, in his rallies yesterday, the Prime Minister said, and I'm going to quote him, "I have not hidden anything from the country. If I had lied, you would have the right to be angry. But on the first day itself, I said there would be problems till December the 30th. And then he added, give me 50 days. If we have to struggle for 50 days to punish the corrupt, should we not do it?" It was a direct emotional appeal to the people of India. Why do you think it won't work? Because after all, every Indian wants to be rid of the cancer of black money.
I think it won't work, Karan, because first of all, the same honorable Prime Minister in Japan seems to be laughing. And then suddenly when he gets back to India, he seems to be so miserable that he starts crying. The issue is the actual black money is either overseas or in gold or in land. And the Prime Minister is doing nothing. So like the Ram Mandir issue, when they collected bricks to, build a temple, or they collected for the Statue of Unity, they collected iron. The BJP is the master of deceit. They will not do anything on the ground. This is another dramatic, and the people are getting wiser, because as the issue is very clear that the black money with all the people is hardly the 3% or less than 3%. What Mr. Modi has done is he is abdicated his responsibility to get the money from outside. And for a starter,
let me put your point.
17,000 lakh crores of export over the past 20 years.
Let me put your point to
No, I'm
Raghav
just saying,
Chadha.
get back the money which was exported and which was remittance has not come back. Start with that.
Raghav Chadha, black money is an issue the Indian people have been concerned about for 7 decades. Even if they accept the argument you've heard from Ajay Kumar that 80% of it is not in India but abroad, although that is contestable, nonetheless, why should the Indian people not turn around and say tackling the 15% in India is worth doing? Because what people hate about black money is that you pay your taxes fairly and squarely and suffer, but the guy next door doesn't pay taxes, gets richer, and therefore benefits from black money, and people hate that. And if Mr. Modi tackles that, then surely he's striking an instinctive chord with the Indian people, and despite the pain, they'll support him.
Well, Mr. Thapar, first of all, as I pointed out in my previous argument, the major chunk of black money is invested in real estate, bullion, jewelry, and is not stored in liquid cash. That's one. Number two, people who possess black money and who have stored this in liquid cash have found so many alternate ways of basically changing the color of the money, and this demonetization scheme will essentially mean changing of hands of black money and will not lead to curbing the menace of black money. So the question that we have to ask ourselves today is that does the economic gain and the wisdom behind this decision outweigh the hardship and the inconvenience caused to the common man? And the answer to that is absolutely no. The fact is that those who are at the bottom of the pyramid are finding it difficult to even carry out the day-to-day responsibilities and lead a life with dignity. There have been more than 20 deaths that have been reported by media owing to demonetization, and the fact is that the Prime Minister himself has realized how badly this has backfired. In fact, you spoke of his speech yesterday. Yesterday, you saw the Prime Minister in a very emotional way trying to salvage the situation. The fact is that emotional speeches, rhetoric and media management cannot substitute stern action against those who hoard black money. What has the action has the Prime Minister taken against those who have stashed black money abroad? We have a list of black money hoarders, people who have bank accounts in HSBC, Geneva, etc., which is lying with the Finance Ministry. What have they done with that?
Let's keep the answer short. Pavan Verma, what you're hearing from Raghav Chadha is that the Prime Minister's emotional speech might have been great watching and listening, but it's not going to work with the Indian people. I put it to you that we're a very emotional country. We get swayed by Prime Minister's rhetoric. And when the Prime Minister is so forthright as to say, and I'm quoting him, give me time till December 30th. After that, if any fault is found in my intentions or my actions, I am willing to suffer any punishment given by the country. That's a powerful appeal, the likes of which I don't recall any Prime Minister in India ever making. Why would it not work when he's tackling something as difficult as black money?
Well, ultimately, Karan, this is about the amount of faith the people have in the Prime Minister. If emotional speeches were themselves enough to be able to convert people in terms of their faith in or faith not in a politician, then I think Mr. Modi would be the master of the game perpetually. But we saw in Bihar, for instance, exceptionally emotional speeches which didn't cut much ice with the people. Now, in this particular case, let me add very clearly to you. First of all, we support the move even though it may be partial. And we keep our judgment in abeyance to see whether it has the impact the government intended it to have. Secondly, we believe we need to go to the root causes of corruption, which include, above all, the nexus of politics and unaccounted money.
And it includes doing away with income tax exemption for agriculture, which you won't support.
Money from abroad.
It also includes doing away with income tax exemption for agriculture, which you won't support.
That's a specific issue. I can have a debate on that. And lastly, Karan, it's about 50 days you said. The Prime Minister is asking for 50 days. If for 50 days you can't buy the essentials in your house, can't get basic nutritional food for your children, cannot go to work or pay your labor, I think that he's asking for much too high a price, and the impact on the economy also will be very adverse. So with these caveats, I say, well, the Prime Minister is an emotional speaker.
Let me bring you in, Mitra, because you heard a very critical point being made there by Pavan Verma. This is a test of people's faith. He could have added the word trust. He could have added the word their belief that the man can deliver. It's a test of the PM's faith, trust and capacity to deliver. Now, if you compare the PM with individual CMs in statewide polls, as happened in Bihar and as happened in Bengal, no doubt the PM comes out second best. But if you look at the PM as the PM, and that's how he's acting as the PM nationwide for the country, he's heads and shoulders above anyone else. And at the national level, heads and shoulders above even state chief ministers like yours or Pavan's. So why do you think people won't have faith in this PM? After all, they gave him, for the first time after 30 years, a complete majority on his own.
They gave the party, they gave him a complete majority in 2014. When you say he's head and shoulders above CMs, I don't think that's a very fair statement to make, because he's the Prime Minister of the country. The chief ministers in the state didn't run for the position of Prime Minister, number one. Number two, he hasn't been put to the test yet. He was put to the test in each state as the leader of his party, and they've used him as a major campaigner in every state that has gone to the polls. He's failed in Bihar. He's failed in Bengal. They lost the board, which is the Cant board inside his own constituency.
He won in
after
Maharashtra.
He became Prime Minister.
He won in
One
Haryana,
second, please.
Maharashtra,
Sir,
Assam.
he's
You could
lost.
even say Jammu and Kashmir.
Hold on, sir. He lost Delhi, he's lost Bihar, he's lost Bengal. So I don't think he may have won 2, but he's lost 3. So I don't think that puts him head and shoulders above anybody. And he hasn't been put to the final test. We have this conversation right after 2019, and he comes back with the same number of seats as he has now, I think that'll be a fair comment. But as of now, to say that he's head and shoulders above everybody, I think is the jury's still out on that. As a matter of faith and trust goes, I think there's no, as far as histrionics is concerned, there's no one that can beat him at the national stage. He does this big show yesterday of sort of I'm crying, people are out to get me. And today he says something as trivial. He says something today that is, my chai is as karak as my decisions. Right? So for a person who was crying on stage yesterday and making an emotional thing, it's good cop. He comes back today and he says, my decisions are as karak as my chai. So I don't think that metaphor sits very well in sort of the national discourse.
The question is, does the metaphor work with the audience? You and I don't have the answer to that, because you and I weren't there.
We'll know as you go into the streets and you see the anger spilling on the streets.
Guess.
I don't think
but
it's
Chandan,
working.
let me bring you
Let
in.
them come to the polls and we'll know
the whole thing hinges on one simple fact. Everyone for the national good is prepared to accept a certain amount of pain. But mark my words, a certain amount. We've had 5 days of it, and that people are prepared to accept. But if it carries on into 3 weeks and 4 weeks, right? And then if on top of that, you have economic slowdown taking place because expenditure has gone down, people aren't earning, people aren't spending, then the pain will not just be 3 weeks and 4 weeks long, but it will be multiplied because of the impact on the economy. At that point could be a tipping point when people begin to be more concerned about the pain and forget the gain. You've taken an enormous gamble and you have no idea how it will end and what the outcome will be.
Well, Karan, there's a saying that he who dares wins. Unless you dare, unless you take a risk, unless you take a gamble, you are not going to win.
Yeah, they
and
also
this
say
is a problem. The black money
also say, Chandan,
has been such a
and I don't
problem
mean to
in
be
this
rude,
country, almost from the
step
time
in
of
where
independence,
angels fear
that
to
somebody
tread.
had to take the bull by the horns and take decisive steps to get rid of it. I agree it's partial. I know there's a lot of black money stashed abroad, we all know that. We know that black money has found its way into real estate, and the Prime Minister has announced only yesterday that now he's going to go after Benami property, which will definitely be a move to get out black money stocked in real estate. And there are many steps that have to follow. We have to bring back money which is there in foreign banks or
the only thing, Chandan, I won't have to interrupt you because we're running out of time. I simply want to leave the audience with the thought that the Prime Minister has taken a very courageous gamble. But it is courageous, I admit, but it is a gamble as well. If the pain is greater than the gain and continues for too long, people begin to forget about the national cause and worry about the cost to themselves. But if it only lasts for 5 or 6 days or maybe a few more, undoubtedly they will give the Prime Minister credit. The question is, implementation will at the end of the day determine whether he wins or whether he loses. My thanks to all my guests for joining me, and if you haven't, thanks for watching. Goodbye, good night.